How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best Steel-type Pokemon you can power up in Pokemon GO, in honor of Zacian and Zamazenta in their crown forms coming to Pokemon GO this upcoming weekend for Go Fest. So like usual, let's start off with the Mega Pokemon, and actually there's not really any Mega Pokemon that are worth mentioning. The Mega options that you have are going to be like Mega Steelix, Mega Lucario, Mega Scizor, but really as far as Steel types go, none of these are actually worth using as attackers in the Raid/Gym meta. The best Mega Evolution that has still been unreleased in Pokemon GO is going to be Mega Metagross, and even when this Pokemon comes out, I'm pretty sure Zacian, Zamazenta, and even Duskmane Necrozma are all going to be better than it. But, you know, it's good to have a Mega Evolution alongside your other Steel types just for that extra damage bonus. Now, I do also understand that many players out there would prefer to use a Mega Evolution for candy farming bonuses in raid battles opposed to damage bonuses, so really when it comes down to it, you're not missing out on not having a single Mega Evolution for the Steel type category, but eventually, when we do get Mega Metagross, that Pokemon is going to be really worth it. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say here is that a regular Metagross is going to be a great investment, not only for the future Mega Evolution, but if you have a Dynamax variant, that's going to be really good in max battles. And if you have the Hundo, you can also use this in the Open Master League because it currently ranks in the top 20 right now. So Metagross by itself, fantastic Pokemon. Whether or not you actually have the Dynamax variant, that is okay. If you don't, though, I do hope that you guys actually have a Shiny Lucky variant because Shiny Metagross looks amazing. So Metagross aside, let's talk about Zacian and Zamazenta next in their crown forms. These two are going to be released for the first time in Go Fest Global. For anybody who attended the in-person events, you probably already have these, but basically, these two are tied for the #1 Steel-type attacker in the game. It's kind of insane when you think about it. I didn't realize that Zamazenta was going to be just as good as Zacian in the Raid/Gym meta, but it's actually really cool. So whichever one you actually like the most, you can go with that option, or at least you should choose to raid that one a bit more. Now, personally speaking, I do actually like Zacian better. I think it looks a lot cooler. I also went with Pokemon Sword when I got the main series game, so definitely going to be rating that one a bit more myself. It also ranks at the #1 spot for the Open Master League, whereas Zamazenta ranks at #2. It's like slightly worse than Zacian Crown form. I wouldn't even say it's like slightly worse. They're both the top 2 in the meta right now. And so really whichever one you guys decide to go with is going to be a solid option. I do also want to mention though, unlike Zacian, Zamazenta Crown form also has relevance in the Open Ultra League in the top 100 right now. So don't transfer your extras, definitely make sure to mirror trade them to try to get a good IV spread for the Open Ultra League, and then you guys can build it in that meta as well. So until we eventually get the Shadow variants for Zamazenta and Zacian, which is probably like 10 years down the road, these two are going to be the best of the Steel type category for the foreseeable future. Now following that, I also want to talk about Duskmane Necrozma, which is going to be a fusion Pokemon between Necrozma and Solgaleo. This was the best Steel type attacker in the game for like about a year, but now with Zacian and Zamazenta it was dethroned, but that doesn't mean this Pokemon is a bad one to invest into. It's still going to be one of the best Steel type attackers in the game. I mean literally, it's below Zacian and Zamazenta, but it's still like much better than everything else. Next up we have Shadow Metagross, which is actually the best Shadow Pokemon on this list. You do need to have the Legacy moveset Meteor Mash, and I guess I forgot to mention this earlier with Mega Metagross and regular Metagross, you do also want to have Meteor Mash as well. Shadow Metagross was a really good investment for a long time. If you guys already have some build, it can still be used as a solid Steel type attacker in the Raid/Gym meta, but now that we have Zacian, Zamazenta, and Duskmane Necrozma, I mean, if you have the opportunity to go with at least a combination of those Pokemon in your team of 6, then definitely go with that over Shadow Metagross. Now following that we have Shadow Dialga, which was just recently featured, actually it's technically still featured as the legendary Pokemon available from Giovanni right now. When it comes down to this Pokemon, I think it's better used as a Dragon type attacker rather than as a Steel type attacker because, I mean again, you have the other options out there. And in terms of resources, it's going to be a lot more, especially being like legendary candy. So I wouldn't really recommend investing into a Shadow Dialga, but if you want to have something just unique, I guess you could go with it. Now following that, we do also have Dialga Origin Form, which I actually recommend investing into instead. This can also be used as a really good Dragon type attacker. It has extremely good Master League relevance, and of course you have the Adventure effect for Roar of Time, so it's a Pokemon that really gets a lot of play in practically every single meta, and then even some additional things just in the game itself. Now the biggest downside to Dialga Origin Form is going to be the Legacy moveset Roar of Time and not being able to be Elite TM'd. You basically had to get this from raid battles, and it was only like a small chance to get it. We are going to be having a raid day during July for Dialga Origin Form and Palkia Origin Form, but if they're going to be the same as they were last time, I really don't recommend raiding for these, at least not super hard, because if you do end up getting that hundo, it's going to be kind of unfortunate if it doesn't have Roar of Time. Therefore, the best option is just going to be to Lucky Trade for this Pokemon. Even though it's not the best Steel-type Pokemon on this list, I just think as a Pokemon by itself in terms of usability, Dialga Origin Form is definitely one of the best Pokemon in the game right now. And then finally, one of our last Pokemon that I want to mention for the Raid/Gym meta is going to be a budget option, and that's going to be Excadrill. This Pokemon is typically used more as a ground-type attacker rather than as a Steel-type attacker, but I mean, it's a pretty cheap Pokemon to get just because it only costs 50 candy to evolve, so let's say for example you catch a really high level Drillbur in the wild, you can just evolve that regardless of the IVs, and now you at least have a decent Steel-type attacker to use until you get some of the better options out there. Most of the Pokemon I mentioned before Excadrill are all really difficult to get in game, so for that reason I wanted to mention at least a decent budget option you guys can go with, just because Excadrill and Drillbur, I should say, is featured pretty frequently in Pokemon Go. Next up, let's take a look at some PvP options you guys might want to invest into as well. We did get some recent changes for the new GBL season that started in June, so a lot of these rankings are pretty new. So first of all, we have Fortress, which ranks in the number 3 spot for the Open Great League and the number 4 spot for the Open Ultra League. By far, one of the best steel types you guys can invest into, and honestly for a long time Fortress wasn't really that good in the PvP meta, so it's actually really awesome to see this change. Next up, we're going to have Corviknight, which ranks in the top 20 for the Open Great League and the number 5 spot for the Open Ultra League. This Pokemon, you do want to ideally have the legacy moveset Iron Head, so you will have to use an Elite TM, but I think it's totally worth it if you happen to get a good IV spread. Otherwise, for the fast attack, you want to go with Sand Attack, and then for the other charge move, you want to go with Sky Attack. Now with that being said, Corviknight is also going to benefit from a future G-Max form, so if you wanted to wait and get the most usability out of this Pokemon, you could raid for the G-Max, then trade it, try to get a good IV spread for the Open Ultra League, build that one, and then use it for not only the G-Max form, but also for the Open Ultra League. I mean, you could do that, you don't really need to do that. I think if you get a good IV spread for either the Great League or the Ultra League, you can just build that by itself, that should be fine. But keep in mind, the Ultra League variant does require a lot of resources, so either way, you gotta farm the extra large candy. Next up, we're gonna have Steelix, which ranks in the top 20 for the Open Great League and the top 20 for the Open Ultra League. For the ideal moveset, you want to go with Thunder Fang plus Psychic Fangs and Breaking Swipe. Steelix has actually gotten a lot of buffs over the years in terms of move pool updates, so it's actually pretty cool to see this Pokemon being really relevant. I just feel like all the movesets it's going to be using right now are not what it initially had, so these are all additions over the years. Now I do also want to mention, because Mega Steelix isn't going to be meta relevant as a raid attacker, you could also use your Mega Evolution as either your Great League spread or your Ultra League spread. That way you don't have to build two. Like, it doesn't make sense to really build the hundo for this guy when you can just use one of those IV spreads. Following that, we're going to have Togedemaru, which ranks in the top 40 for the Open Great League with Thunder Shock plus Fell Stinger and Wild Charge. And then we're going to have Bastiodon, which is going to rank in the top 50 for the Open Great League. This is going to be one of the super extra large Pokemon builds for the Open Great League meta, so it is going to cost you most of the extra large candy, 296, but I can say with certainty, Bastiodon is easily worth the investment. Its combination being a rock and steel type Pokemon is just phenomenal. It resists so much, and so having built it myself, I can strongly recommend building this. I mean, it's going to take you guys a while to actually get the extra large candy for it, but trust me, if you get a really good IV spread, it is easily worth the investment. You are going to have so much fun running your Great League matches just because this guy is such a tank. Next up, we're going to have Tinkaton with Fairy Wind plus Play Rough and Bulldoze. This is a really rare Pokemon to get. Not only that, but I believe it was egg exclusive, so you have to trade with somebody else if you want to get a good IV spread for either the Great League or the Ultra League. In terms of the Open Ultra League, it ranks in the top 20, which is super good, and then in the Great League, it ranks in the top 60. Now, personally speaking, I actually really like Tinkaton, although just given its accessibility right now, it is way too difficult to get the resources for this guy, so for anybody out there who does have it built, I do kind of envy you. Next up, we're going to have Registeel, which ranks in the top 30 for the Open Ultra League. You do want to have Lock-On plus Focus Blast and Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon is going to be a legacy moveset, so you will have to use an Elite TM. We did just recently have Registeel available in raid battles, and actually at the time of making this video, it might still be available in raid battles with Zap Cannon. Now, just like some of the other legendary options that we talked about, you do want to mirror trade Registeel ideally to get a better IV spread before you power it up for the Open Ultra League. Same thing can be said for our next Pokemon, which is going to be Cobalion, ranking in the top 30 for the Open Ultra League as well. This Pokemon does require the legacy moveset Sacred Sword, and it was featured during the Univator a few months ago, so hopefully you guys were able to get one for yourself. I definitely think this Pokemon is worth the investment. I was lucky enough to get a good IV spread, although I haven't actually powered it up just yet. I have powered up my Virizion, but just not my Cobalion yet. The next Pokemon I want to talk about is going to be Solgaleo. So we talked about Duskmane Necrozma earlier. If you happen to get a really good IV spread on your Cosmog, you can just leave it as a Solgaleo when you evolve it all the way up. You don't actually have to fuse it together to get Duskmane Necrozma, because just by itself, a Solgaleo actually ranks in the number 4 spot for the Open Master League. So even though Duskmane Necrozma is technically better as a Steel-type attacker, Solgaleo is better in the Open Master League. Kind of crazy how that worked out, right? Next up, we're going to talk about Heatran, which ranks in the top 30 for the Open Master League. This Pokemon is better as a Fire-type attacker in the Raid/Gym meta with Magma Storm, but in the PvP meta, I mean, that's kind of where the Steel typing comes in. Overall, that typing being Fire and Steel is really good. So if you were lucky enough to get the Hundo on Heatran, it is definitely worth the investment for the Open Master League right now. Now, finally, our last Pokemon is going to be kind of a jack of all trades, and that's going to be Melmetal, which actually requires a lot of candy to evolve, but it's actually not as difficult as you might think. Getting the Melton box and then getting a bunch of candy is actually pretty easy. If you guys aren't sure how to actually get a Melton box and get these consistently in Pokemon Go, I'm going to leave a link to a video right now on screen. You could also find this link down below. But overall, Melmetal is going to be a great option. I think it's like a good budget option, you know, just because the candy is so easy to get. It's really, really easy to get the extra large candy as well, because Melton is technically a mythical Pokemon, which means you're guaranteed to get 3 extra large candy every single time you catch a Melton. So getting 296 really isn't going to take you that long, especially if you have an active Steel-type Mega to get more candy bonuses. Now when it comes down to the meta relevance for Melmetal, you do want to ideally use this in the Open Master League, but you can also use it in Rocket Battles too. For the moveset, you want to go with Thunder Shock plus Super Power and Double Iron Bash. You could also switch that out with Thunderbolt or Rock Slide as well, depending on what you want to actually have for your coverage. Double Iron Bash is going to be a legacy moveset though, so if you do happen to get a Hundo, I do think it is worth investing into the Elite TM to get Double Iron Bash, but if you don't have the Hundo, then just keep grinding those Melton boxes. Overall though, Melmetal is a great Pokemon you guys can use against the Rocket leaders as well, just because its movesets are all super spammy, and that's going to help out a lot when you're going to be burning those shields. And so basically that's why I recommend Melmetal, just because it's such an easy Pokemon to get access to and build up the candy for. I mean, compared to everything else, it might be kind of difficult to build any of these Steel types, but Melmetal on the other hand, super easy. So once again, make sure to check out that Melton guide if you guys do need help with that, and otherwise that pretty much covers the best Steel-type Pokemon you guys can power up as of June 2025. If you guys did enjoy this video and you want to check out some of my other top 10 videos, then click on this playlist next.